There's something hidden underneath our feet, a box of soil hiding spoils that gleam. And we have a fire behind us to weave those tapestries, to trudge through the depths and to unearth histories. Come one, come all, wanderers, those who crave the passions of quest to find rare artifacts each day. Some think we go too far, but they'll still hear us say, we won't stop our adventures until we're in the grave. These guilty adventures tie us all together, forging a path into an odyssey anew. Let's battle forward so this era will last forever. Hand in hand with allies, hand in hand with you. Into the realms of era we travel and explore, making connections with partners, always seeking more. The road ahead may be uncharted, but we aren't afraid, so let's stride ahead until we reach the edge of all we know. These guilty adventures tie us all together, forging a path into an odyssey anew. Let's battle forward so this era will last forever. Hand in hand with allies, hand in hand with you. There's something hidden.
Find our way, facing chaos come what may. Through the trials we'll prevail, our courage won't let us fail. Overcoming challenges we stand tall, protecting the weak, answering their call. With unity and strength we'll rise above, in this gilded house, bound by love. Gilded house, a beacon of light, guided by purpose, shining so bright. With our spirit we'll make a stand, in this sanctuary together we'll withstand. Gilded house, a shelter of grace, a haven of hope every soul's embrace. With open arms we protect and defend, in this gilded house the strength won't end. Every journey faced we grow strong, bound by a mission we'll right the wrongs. With resilience as our guiding force, in this gilded house we stay the course. Overcoming the challenges we stand tall, taking care of the weak, answering their call. With unity and strength we'll rise above, in this gilded house bound by love. Gilded house, a beacon of light, guided by purpose, shining so bright. With our spirit we'll make a stand, in this sanctuary together we'll withstand. Gilded house, a
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Gilded House stream. Today we'll be discussing Alpha 2 with my co host and special guest. If you tuned in to our previous live stream where we started our BG3 playthrough, we will be resuming that next week, so stay tuned. But without further ado, let's get to introductions. I'll start with Nahili.
Hey everybody, this is Tonili My'runji, the story officer here at Gilded House. Just like we introduced ourselves last time, I am also the story officer, and alongside me today is actually my character's sister, Tonili. So can't wait till you get to meet her. She's a delight. I think most of our community would agree with that, but I'll go ahead and pass this along to Thera.
Hello everyone, my name is Thera. I am the PvP PvE officer and I help Nihili run some story events. Hey, and I will go ahead and give it over to our special guest today, Tonili.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Tonili My'runji. As stated before, I play Nihili's younger sister. I am, in character, I am the Trademaster of Phoenix Antiquities. Out of character, I am one of the mentors that assist with running various forums, mostly spreadsheets, one of Thyra's favorites. That's about all I can say, really, is I'm glad to be here with everybody.
Awesome, and I am Cersei Kamur. I am the GM of Gilded House. We are a PVX roleplay community for Ashes of Creation, and we are super excited to talk about Alpha 2 today. So we're just going to go on and jump in right into that. We've got a lot of questions and topics we want to discuss, so we'll get started. I will start with Nahili and kind of get the ball rolling. Nahili, what are you most excited about for Alpha 2 of Ashes of Creation?
I think for me, especially with the Alpha 2 test coming up at the end of this month, I am most excited about just jumping into the quests, especially the things that you're probably seeing on screen right now. I just kind of want to delve into the interactions with the NPCs, get a little bit of lore, and then expand from the ruins of Ayla. I think initially it's just the exploration portion that I'm really excited about. The jump puzzles, which I know a few in this discussion are going to have a little problems with, but that's okay. And definitely going to enjoy the PvP aspect. I'll be right along with Thera on that one. And just jumping in with other Gilded House members is going to be pretty exciting. We have actually a few of them in this channel right now with us. Looking forward to getting experience with Bailey and Nithram there and Yeehaw. And Lies and Rose. So that'll be exciting. I think just getting a hands-on experience with them is going to be really fun. And I think most of us are looking forward to that part of it.
Awesome. And what about you, Thera? What are you most excited for Alpha 2?
Oh, I mean, pretty much a lot of what Nihili said, but more so seeing the PvE content, and of course I'm ready to get down and dirty with the PvP. Getting ready to scout out and kind of just enjoy the game. Like, we've been waiting what feels like forever for it, and it's crazy how close we are to Alpha 2. Like, a little less than 3 weeks away. That's insane.
Yeah, it's coming up very quickly, so it's a lot of excitement. What about you, Tonili? What are you most excited about for Alpha 2?
Well, I'm actually excited for the overall experience. This is my first ever alpha. First time I've gotten into early development stages to be able to partake in any of that. So I'm looking for that overall experience, working with our guildmates, and just to see what it's going to be like.
Yeah, I feel that. Like for me, I am really excited just to get in with the guild and experience this world, and this game we've been waiting for with everyone. Whether it's we're doing PvE, PvX, dungeons, doing caravan missions, building up a node, or roleplay. Those are all going to be exciting adventures, I think, for our group to have together. We've been doing a lot of roleplay in Discord, but it'd be nice to do even just a little bit of it in Alpha 2 and kind of evolve from there. So I kind of agree with everyone what they've said. Um, Next question we want to get in there. Which feature or mechanic are you most eager to test in Alpha 2? Nodes, caravans, naval combat, or something else?
Well, I guess I could just start it off and say that I think the most exciting feature that I'm looking forward to is seeing is the world events, how the world story plays out, how our characters change that narrative. I think I'm actually really interested when the game actually goes live to see how different the servers become from one another. I think it'll be very cool to actually go into the ashes of creation forms and realize like your server is completely different as far as like progression. We might have access to Carfin over a bridge, but they might have access to Carfin through like an underpass. Little things like that I think are going to be neat. Seeing how, if people even have Carfin open, maybe they'll get a different grand dungeon open instead of Carfin. It might be that different from our server. So I think that's a really neat feature that I'd love to see played out, because I don't think we've ever seen that in a live game before. Not at least not on that level of detail and scale. So I think that's my big one for sure.
Yeah, I think story system wise, Ashes is definitely doing something different. I think the closest I can think of in games I've played it reminds me of is ESO. Obviously, ESO has a pretty deep story as well, and with that game, you'll go and enter a chapter, and you might have the Crystal Tower, which is Final Fantasy as well, but the Crystal Tower in ESO, where you look at it one day and it might look normal, next day, it's basically the apocalypse. So that's kind of like the vibe I get, except it looks like Ashes is taking it a step further, which I think is going to be really cool to play with. Yeah, so Tony or Thera, which feature or mechanic are you most eager to test in Alpha 2?
I mean, while I am extremely eager to test out like the nodes and get to play with the caravans and the naval stuff, I think what I'm most excited about seeing is the dungeons, like, or essentially what Riza was talking about, like the open world stuff, but more so like we go in as a group and we're doing our thing, and then here just comes this random group, and they just they try to wipe us out. I'm excited to see how that plays out and how it works, because I don't think there's ever been a game that essentially like is has done something like that, and at least not that I can think of at the top of my head. um and see if we're able to get to the end boss and be like, yeah, we did all this, we were able to knock back the billies, and yeah, so I'm ready for that.
I'm looking forward to the exploration. I'm hoping I'm going to take my time, and like a lot of other times when I've played with everybody, and explore more. But I am looking forward to like where I'm working with Phoenix. I am looking forward to the caravan, seeing how that works, how that plays out. And I'm going to say I'm looking forward to the PvP. In the past games, I've always shied away from it, but this is something I want to go out of my comfort zone and push for myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. I kind of feel the same, Tony. I mean, even though I'm not really a big PvPer, I am excited to kind of experience that in Ashes. For me, the feature mechanic I'm most excited for is the node system, which also encompasses, the caravan system, which is through the node system. Naval combat is something I feel like we won't get to for a while. It seems more like a phase 3 type thing, but I'm excited to see what they do with that because I really enjoyed like the naval stuff you could do like an Arcade. I felt like that was a big step forward for MMOs, so it would be nice to see something akin to that, obviously with adjustments. I'm not sure if we'll ever get like some of the stuff that me and Dimmer Meerkat remember from Arcades, right? All the boats and everything, but I'm excited for that as well. So I think there's a little bit of something for everyone to really dip their toe into and enjoy. So that'd be a lot of fun. I did see the question in chat about what part of the guild is everyone excited for. Well, let's just go around. What are you most excited for, Nihili, in the guild?
I wonder. No, Guild Adventures, obviously. I've always role played as an explorer and adventurer in most guilds or communities, or some sort of scholarly type figure, especially in like Jedi RP from SWG or Tor. So, Guild Adventures is all about the adventuring, the exploring, running into ruins like you see on the screen there, that stuff's fascinating, and kind of getting into trouble, having your Indiana Jones moments where you're like, oh shit, there's a big boulder coming after me. I better run my little ass off. Things like that. And having like good discussions, philosophical things like that, talking about what we're seeing in the world, trying to decipher what its meanings are, even if we're wrong. That's Guild Adventures. I mean, we even have the Corvican Rangers, which I'll definitely let Thayrit discuss more in depth, but it's basically just a partnership between me and her branches. So, and I'm not branchlers, but our respected paths. So,
I don't know. Nihili did just kind of claim Thera as a sister.
Yeah, and I smudged some dirt on your face and said, "Hey, you're my sis."
Sister from another mister.
Yeah.
Oh, that means you're attached to me too. Uh-oh.
No, womp womp womp.
You're going to cause so much headaches for Nihili.
How do we not already? No, go ahead, Nihili.
I can just send you to Nithram. Nithram can handle you.
I'm waiting for Nithram just to be like, please get her away. I can't take her anymore. But, I guess, as for me, I'm under PvP and the PvE. Yeah, I'm excited to start being able to work more with everybody, because, we don't have a game right now, so, the only way I get to know everybody is through, RP and stuff like that, but, you can tell a lot about a person from the way that they play when it's time for PvP. Some are more offensive. I'm a very offense person. I'm always ready to dive head first. Ask Rise though. One D&D campaign, my character put her head through a hole and was like, "I'm gonna make a cold bolt, my friend." And yeah, I'm just so excited to be able to work with everyone. And then, like Resla was mentioning, we have the Rangers that we are working on, which is a joint between Guild Adventures and the Obsidian Order. And it's essentially scouts or rangers from Lord of the Rings is kind of what we were aiming for. Where especially in PvP, you guys will be going out, you'll be scouting for us, you'll be giving them back information for those of us that are more engaged in the PvP that's going on, say, during Node Wars, because all that information is important to have. We need to know what's coming, from what flank and how many are roughly around, or where people have set up their little area, which, for me, isn't really anything new, because I played BDO since it came out until, oh god, it's been a few years now. But yeah. I'll let you have it for the floor, Tony.
I kind of lost track of where we were.
What's your favorite part of being about in Gilded House? Your path. what are you looking forward to most in Gilded House?
Um, Actually, if you want to know the truth, I am loving Phoenix Antiquities, but I'm also looking at possibly branching my character out a little bit more into the Rangers as well, because that fits her. To balance both of those will be interesting. I'm looking forward to actually have being able to play Phoenix Antiquities itself as well within a game so that we actually know what's going on and we can have more interaction with our crafters, with our merchants, and we actually have something tangible that we can enjoy together and progress and help build the guild from that aspect, from the crafting, from the merchant aspect.
Yeah, for me, I obviously my character is attached to House Chimera, but I also have other characters that are, in Guild Adventures. I am extremely excited to play around with a lot of the different branches that we have in Gilded House. I'm also extremely excited about Phoenix Antiquities and the whole trading aspect. I think that will be a big motivator for the game. I mean, the economy is going to be so important. We definitely got to get all that gold. So yeah, that's probably what I'm most excited for is playing around with Phoenix Antiquities and the crafting and the economy. But I'm also going to be somebody who will be happy to jump into a dungeon and explore the world because it is a very vast world to explore. You go on a journey and you're going to be gone for some time. So that'd be some interesting role play as well. So very excited for that. Another question that I wanted to go through is what do you hope to see in the community feedback from Alpha 2 testing?
I will let one of the ladies speak first. I always seem to just jump right into it.
Are you speaking our community as a guild, or are you speaking community in general of Ashes?
Yeah, I think either or is fine. What our feedback as a guild would be interesting to see as well. What does our guild end up like leaning towards in the game? And that could go through, how they feel about different classes or how they feel about the world and the nodes and everything like that. So it could be either if there's anything specific you're hoping to get out of that and feedback wise.
Well, I definitely am. With, like I've said many times already, with the crafting and the merchants, I'm hoping to get a lot of feedback as to what we'll be able to bring forward into the guild through that aspect. Unfortunately for myself, a lot of what I want to do, both as my character and my crafting, isn't even going to come out until later in the third phase of Alpha 2. So it'll be interesting to hear what others are saying about the other aspects, the other crafting, and to work that together with everything all the information we're going to be taking in. And also, if there's anything that we're lacking, I would love to be able to hear, okay, well, this isn't working quite as well as we thought. Let's, is there a way of going around that? And also bringing that to the developers, like, okay, this isn't quite working. We want to see this stuff working for everybody, not, maybe not on the same scale, but we want it to be working, not the glitches and so forth, obviously.
Yeah, for me, I can just answer. I'm interested to see the feedback in regards to the various RP part systems, whether it's chatting and emotes and everything. I'm really hoping that the feedback we get from Alpha 2 makes the game a lot more. Um, well, just it plays to role players, you know. You can have a beautiful game and a beautiful world, but if you don't have a meaningful, you know, text channel, if you don't have emotes or things like that, you know, that makes a big difference, you know. It's kind of weird to go into a tavern and not actually be able to sit down or lean against a wall, and you just it'd be nice to have like those little things you could do to really play into your role play experience. And having custom emotes obviously is really important as well. I know that's big, like in Final Fantasy. So, you know, being able to have those RP mechanics, I think, will be great. And so I'm hoping our community feedback and everyone else's community feedback, especially with the roleplay community, really pushes so we can ensure we do have good RP systems in the game.
Listen, I've RP'd on Final Fantasy 14, and I'd just be happy as long as my character has the ability to kneel. Just kneel. Kneel on one leg. That's all I want. That's all I ask from Final Fantasy. But no. Um, for me, I mean, it's kind of hard because it's definitely gonna it's definitely something that, for me, I need to get in there. I need to be able to play around with things to kind of determine, like, you know, how if something needs to be fixed, or do I feel like, this could be a little bit smoother? Because um, a lot of classes, when you're going to play, a lot of things that other people look for is how fluid, your class's skills are and how well they intertwine with each other. Um, I hope that we get to see more. I mean, I know we have only a little less than 3 weeks, but like there's always more that they could give us. And I know Steven and his crew, they're just like, you gotta wait. You gotta wait. Um, Especially when it comes to RP aspects, because we're working with very little compared to, like the Kalar, they have a lot of lore, the Pyre have some lore, but like a lot of the other races don't have all that much lore, so you kind of have to like gauge, okay, what are they kind of based off of? Okay, this is what we got. So
You might have to repeat the question for me. Apparently, I'm old and I forgot what it was.
oh god.
It was what do you hope to see in the community feedback from Alpha 2 testing?
Oh, I hope people provide detailed information about the bugs that they run across. I hope that, while we're playing, and I know we're all there to play and enjoy it, but it is still testing, and it is going to be in a test phase, and this is the opportunity and time for like the entire community to come together and really like, hey, this is what I see, this is what's happening. This has to be addressed, because the more people that identify those errors in what they're experiencing, the better Intrepid's going to be able to like pinpoint like, oh, 10 people just got stuck on the corner of this building and they're like 5 feet away from the corner of the building. That's got to be addressed. Or, one of the lion heads that's holding one of the lions that are holding that bridge, suddenly it's like tails just floating in midair. It could be like simple bug reports, or it could be really, things that could be game breaking, like, when this mace hits in a specific way, you're insta killing people. Like, that's the stuff we need to report. I know it's cool to have like an edge on people for a bit, but we have to report those things because it's going to be our responsibility. I mean, we paid to support the company. We didn't pay to necessarily play in the alpha. I'm sure there are people that did just pay to just get into the alpha, but a lot of us supported the project. And for me, going into the alpha, that's what I'm going into it is to test the game, support the project. I want to see it to succeed. So in order for us to make it succeed, we have to give detailed reports of what's happening and our experiences. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for our experiences with the entire system. The patches that they give us every like 3 or 4 weeks, I think was the timeline. We when we're experiencing these new like game mechanics, we have to be apt to testing those things and reporting what we're seeing and our experiences with those systems, so that way they can get that impression from the community that they're looking for. That's why I like to stress, especially on this question, that it is a test period. So anyone that's new to the this testing experience, you're going to run into a lot of bugs and you're going to run into a lot of complications. So use this time to help the game grow into something that you want to see it become. And I guess that's what I'm hoping from the alpha experience.
Yeah, and I agree. And as Dimmer put in there, the team at Intrepid has been very clear that this is a testing phase. It's not an early access. So it's not going to be polished. There'll be lots of bugs and systems we'll be testing out. I'm sure when the game hits its deadline later this month for Alpha 2, that we're going to be encountering a lot of crazy stuff. So I don't expect that day to be like smooth sailing by any means, but it's an alpha and we've got to, understand that as we enter this game. And, one bad day or even a couple bad days of testing is, just par for the course. And this is going to be a testing phase we're all going to be in for well over a year at this point. So, yeah, strap in. I wanted to ask one other question. I believe someone mentioned it in chat, but we kind of already had a question like this. So I'm going to go and ask that. What class or archetype are you most excited to try out in Alpha 2? And I will start with Tonili.
Well, it may change, but because it's changed twice already, but I'm looking at the Ranger Rogue for myself. I tend to vacillate between wanting to be more of a melee person compared to a ranged person, but I like to go back and forth. So I'm hoping that will afford that for me, as well as fit along with the fact that, I'm playing a pirate. We are originally taught in the forest a lot of times, to for hunting, for ranged and so forth. So yeah, I'll stop there.
I guess
I guess
oh, go ahead.
I guess I'll go ahead. So for my archetype, I'm not going to be able to test it out probably until, what is it, phase 3? I don't even think they put out when Summer was coming out. But fighter all day, and when I'm finally able to get my hands on it, I am excited for Blade Caller. I just think that sounds, in my head, it looks amazing. But what's in my head and what, Steven and Intrepid are thinking can be like day and night, so.
Yeah, I know for me, I'm not sure exactly on the archetype. I've kind of went back and forth between two main classes, either being a sorcerer or being a summoner. But I don't know what summoner is going to be like yet, so it's hard for me to judge on that just yet. So time will tell. And I also am going to be most likely playing another character, which they might be like a ranger or something like that. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Rogue sounds really interesting, so that's a good secondary class that I would consider. I don't typically play a lot of melee classes, but Rogue, Ranger, Sorcerer, and the Summoner are the ones that I'm the most interested in. So I'll definitely be playing around with those once we get Summoner in the game, and Rogue. It'll be fun to try those out.
Yeah, and for me, I've been looking at Scryer, which is Cleric Bard, or Cleric, which would be High Priest. But with the Bard introduction, depending on the guild's need, I might even go Minstrel or Soul Weaver. obviously my first choice would be cleric because I'm used to just being a support class, in the healing role. But bard is a support class too, and if we have a greater need for more buffing, that's the direction I'll go. And it looks like we do have a few other people too. Like Laz says he's going to go tank, and Joltash said he's going to be a mage fighter, which is a battle mage. He's going to go wand sword, and Bailey just said he's going to want to be a soul weaver. So.
And those are cool. There'll be the nice thing with this test is there'll be a lot of time for us to play around with different builds and see what we enjoy the most. And the fun part is that, and I know we've talked about this in previous meetings with our guild, is that, even if you play a cleric, you could be playing a cleric and you could be playing it different from someone else who plays a cleric. So there's lots of possibilities there, which is going to be really fun, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Golden Feather actually had some really cool interviews with people who played clerics, and they all played cleric in a different way. I would definitely go check out their YouTube, because I think it's up on their YouTube. You can go watch that. It's a really good breakdown.
Yeah, I would absolutely check out Golden Feather too. Just in general, I want to kind of give them a little bit of a shout out that they had some trouble with the previous hurricane, and so they've kind of had to take a pause, but we want to just send our love to them because that is terrible. People's lives all over when these kind of natural disasters hit. So I just want to give them a quick little shout out. Moving on, I did have another question I wanted to ask. Based on what we saw when they showed us what the Alpha 2 map is going to look like, what were your impressions, thoughts? Was there a particular area or node or something that caught your eye about their points of interest or dungeons or anything like that?
I mean, I'm very interested in that little Church of the Seven Ruins, or POI. I think that's going to be cool. I bet you we're going to find out a lot of lore, and I'm hoping they give us more specific lore on specific gods that some of our roleplay characters are following, or people that are curious about some of those gods. I hope we get a little bit more of a deep dive on those, even if it's in like the form of like just pictograms or pictography on the walls. That would be kind of neat. Or little clickables if you have to do like a certain jump puzzle. Like that would be cool. I hope they incorporate a lot of like us having to hypothesize things through in-game depiction. So that's one POI that I'm really interested in, because we haven't really got to see that firsthand.
I'm gonna need you to calm down with the jump puzzles, just because I know what's gonna happen, Rise Up Nihili, is you're gonna be like, hey, let's go and do this, and then it's gonna involve a jump puzzle, and then you're gonna get your butt up there, and I'm still stuck on the first darn jump.
And I'm still stuck on the ground.
Don't worry, I'll jump down and I'll lap you a few times until you feel like, oh man, Rise will stop showing off, and then you'll feel motivated to get the jump puzzle done.
No, you and I both know I'm too stubborn to just give up.
I'm the one that gives up. I watch you guys do it. It's like, okay, you guys got it. Fine. At least somebody does.
I mean, there's so much that they've shown that I'm looking forward to exploring. I think the biggest, or the main thing I kind of want to go to explore is everything in like the little corrupted zone. Like I know they were talking about like the monsters in there aren't they supposed to be like hard or something? Like that's fine, that's great. I just kind of want to go in and play with it, and I want to see how they're gonna have that corruption. Like what is it gonna do to our characters? Like, I mean, debuff us, take health, or like, is there some sort of like cleansing that we have to go and get? Like, I'm excited to see what it's gonna all boil down to, and then of course, tagging along with Nihili, who is my pocket healer.
I got overwhelmed by that part, so I'm just looking forward to being able to go out and explore it and tag along with everybody else and try new and different things.
Okay, I'll speak for Tony. She wants to find every single mushroom in the forest, and she just wants to pick them. Just throwing that out there.
All the mushrooms and all the animals.
All the baby animals, yes. It was talking about going to the corrupted zone. It's like, yes, and I know her. She'll try to pet the corrupted beasts for
Yeah.
me. I'll watch her do it.
Tony's just in the background like, you got this, Thera! And like, almost there to pet it and then dead.
Yep, either that or I'll throw healing mushrooms at you. Run, here's a speed mushroom. Let's shroom it up.
It's like, Tony, look, I got a little corrupted baby animal for you.
Oh, where's its skin?
Oh boy.
Skin. It don't need skin.
That's an after dark conversation, guys.
No. Jeez. Oh.
Well, I'm just like Tony kind of. I'm excited to just explore. I'm actually really interested to see the lawless areas that they have on the map. I know those eventually will be like full biomes, so obviously I'm really excited to see the desert and the tropics and all the other biomes. I think that's going to be fun because we have seen in the streams, a lot of the Riverlands, and I love green as much as everyone else, obviously, but I would like to just see like a different biome and explore that. I'd like to see like a node like in the desert or a node like in the tropics as an example, or I will really be excited when we actually get to a place where we can see like a dwarven node or a Tolnar node. I know those are way off in the future, but those are really some things I'm looking forward to as we test the game. Yes, so we'll move forward. Also, I agree with something that Demmer Meerkat said. I loved playing with the language system in Arcade. It wasn't super complex, but it had a lot of potential. And it'd be nice to see a language system in Ashes. It would just add another level of role play that I think would be awesome. You can't exactly communicate with everyone until you've learned like some of their language. And that would be a fun hurdle that people actually had to do and make it like a mechanic of the game like Arcade did. But moving forward, how do you think the node system will shape player-driven stories in Alpha 2?
I guess I could field that one first. Obviously, the nodes are going to have a huge impact on every single aspect of the game, but I think for us role players, it opens up a very big shift in dynamics that some of us may not be used to. So, while you're role playing in a node and, the next day a node war happens and suddenly that node gets destroyed, your complete roleplay experience from that day forward is going to change. Now your characters just experienced their home either being destroyed or, oh shit, I just was in the tavern yesterday talking to so-and-so and now it's gone. Like, those are going to be moments roleplay wise that's going to have a huge impact on every single person that is roleplaying their character's narrative. I don't see how that couldn't. But it's also the same regards as like if the node upgrades. Oh wow, it looks like the mayor and the town citizens were really busy because now suddenly there's this huge church in the center of the node, or this huge marketplace, and it's suddenly like you have a new place to explore as a character. So RP wise, I think it's going to have a huge impact on every single member, not just in Gilded House, but in other communities out there as well, and random people that just happen to go through a node and experienced it one day and then they find out it changes the next.
I'm sorry. What was the question again? I was so busy reading chat.
You're fine. How do you think the node system will shape player-driven stories in Alpha 2?
Oh, I 100% agree with what Nihili said. Like, you know, or even because in the isn't it the military nodes that in the tavern you get the opportunity to try and get the bounty hunter guy to. I want to see how that works, and it'll be interesting to see how many people use it.
And just a slight comment, I've decided going forward, the questions that we ask, I will post and pin those in chat so people can kind of answer if they want in chat, but also see that's what we're talking about at the moment. For me, I am excited for the node system and exactly like what Nahili said earlier about how those shape the stories that characters and players encounter in the game. I think people put like role players in like a bubble of, oh no, we're scared. They're going to take our node and our freehold and burn it to the ground. Well, for role players, that's role play. Like, we'll literally be like living our little lives here and there, and then the node is hit and we're attacked. And potentially, that's a whole story. It's something I've role played in other games, like out like there was the town was hit by a raid or a fire. But the fun thing about Ashes is that is like could happen mechanically in the game. So like you could be dealing with like destruction or ruins or having to relocate, and it adds to the story potential. So I'm also excited to see that come to fruition. Now, I will say I think Alpha 2 is probably going to be, at least in the early stages, we're not going to see all of that, but I know as we go through, we'll be able to test those kinds of mechanics, so it should be a lot of fun.
I'm with you guys also on how it's going to shape us. I'm personally looking forward to, again, stepping out of my bubble. So as the node changes, perhaps it will force us to have to change what we're thinking, what we're doing, what direction we had planned on going, and to have to go in a different direction. And hopefully it will be more enjoyable than past times, and I've gone through such things.
And Breaker, I agree. I believe they've talked about it before, but there will be a cooldown between like node wars and castle sieges. So it won't just be like a constant barrage. It won't be like New World. New World where it's like every week you've gotta deal with like potential war. I believe they're not looking to have those things as constant, and you do have to meet like prerequisites before you could declare those things. So there would be a lot of things they'd have to do, and kind of things they'd have to basically pay for to be able to push out a siege. So it won't be something that people could just be sieging the same node over and over and over. It will take time and require actual effort, from what I understand. And another question. What aspect of Ashes of Creation's economy system are you most looking forward to exploring?
I think I should start with you, Tony.
Yeah, it's right up your alley.
Well, I was just going to say how fast it takes Nahili to make it millions.
Okay, just so people understand, on 14, I am considered a gill goblin because I had a billion gills, so they're picking on me a little bit.
Over.
Yes, almost twice.
Oh my god.
We're going to tattle on you. But honestly, that is not as much my bailiwick as it would be Totora's. He's the one that loves the economy and how all that works. I'm more interested, honestly, in the general workings of no,
The
it's not my
artisan,
word.
the
Yeah.
artisan system. Yeah.
It's not that I'm not looking forward to it. I a lot of times don't let don't think about some of these things too much ahead of time, only because I don't want to be let down. I don't want to be thinking one way and then have it something go the total opposite, which for those of you that have been around me at all know that that will throw me right out of the ballpark. So, yeah, I'm reserving my judgment or my thought processes about that.
I know for me, for me, a lot of it rides on the caravan system, because you're going to be trading materials from one node to another node for profit or for more materials. So I'm excited to see how that all plays into it. I'm also excited to see, um, how you can, like Liza said, let's see if we can corner the armor and the weapon market. I want to see how one node's economy affects another's economy. And I know they've talked about it before, but legitimately making one node like, okay, if you need good armor smithing or what have you, like you're going to go over here or you're going to seek out these people or this person. And like, I want to see if that actually plays together with their intentions for the game. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm most interested in. We do have tutores. Tonili mentioned that is one of our mentors who's more focused on the merchant side of things. So all the spreadsheets, as was mentioned earlier. So that will definitely be up to Tora's alley. And I'm sure we'll have to get to Tora on a stream sometime during Alpha 2 to have like a discussion about like what they're looking forward to, because I know that they have a lot of ideas as well.
I can't really say much about the economy system just because, I mean, I'm not a crafter and I'm not a gatherer. Well, I don't like gathering and I don't like crafting, but if the guild needs things, I will go out and get things. But I'm not, I don't have many questions or anything about the economy system. I'm very much like yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna go over here and kill this thing. Bye.
But that is your contribution. You protect us that are doing those things, whether it be PvP or, your guards in character and so forth. So that does contribute to the economy of um, the guild of the node in that aspect.
I mean, yeah, like I'll I'll be there. The Obsidian Order will be there to help with like um escorting caravans to and fro. But I mean, as for when it comes down to the economy stuff, I'll let you guys play with the money. I just want
Okay.
the gear. Just give me the gear and the wolves, and I'm happy.
We got a deal.
Yeah, I think for me, the most cool aspect of Ashes of Creation's economy that I'm looking forward to is the fact that, I can only grandmaster into two things and master into three. So what that tells me is there's going to be a lot of cooperation among the various players. And because of that cooperation, it's going to get even extended further than like in traditional MMOs where you have a central marketplace. You don't have that in Ashes. So what Cersei was talking about, the caravans, it's going to be really important, and it's going to instill that sense of exploration even for our crafters, our gatherers, and it's going to get our people who are traditionally just gatherers or just traditionally crafters and they don't really want to touch too many of the other aspects of the game. It's going to get them out of their comfort zone because now they're going to have to help participate in the PvP element of it. So I think sometimes it's overlooked how important sometimes those caravans are going to be for the longevity of the game, because it's adding an extra element that the traditional MMOs don't have anymore. So I think that's cool. I think that's a huge one for me, is like how much connectivity we all have to have with each other and how much the cooperation is going to be amongst everybody, because you're going to need that level of cooperation.
I second that. I thought about it before, but it just went in and went out the other ear. But yeah, having to rely on others that may not be in our guild, like you said, the caravan is going to be a big, big deal and out of so much of our comfort zone, just protecting them.
Another question I wanted to pose, that kind of goes with the whole cooperation type of stuff. How do you think guild alliances will impact the game?
Oh, I'd like to hear from Thayer on this one first because I feel like that's going to have a lot to do with like the PvP element for sure, and the economy. But
Oh, for sure. I think guild alliances are going to be really important, especially because, there's only so many servers shards that they're giving us, right? So, we could end up on a server that, their guilds, these guilds are in the thousands, right? And, just going off of a talk Cersei had about, ooh, what's this pretty button do? And she clicks it and is like, oh, we're at war with this 5K guild. Thanks. I mean, right now we're not a large guild. We're kind of a smallish guild, so having people who are able and are willing to help and participate in wars and node wars and the caravan systems and stuff is going to greatly help not only us but them, because they'll get something out of it too, right? um so it's going to be really important, especially if somebody wants to play with the pretty little buttons.
Listen, I've learned my lesson, okay?
Haven't gotten in the game yet. How have you learned your lesson?
Lies and Rose know how that went. I promise them right now that I'm not gonna cause the chaos. At least not with the buttons.
Well, yeah, she sneezes and accidentally presses her keyboard or something.
Declare war.
Uh,
Um,
but yeah, I think they're gonna be really important because I mean, at let's be honest, a lot of PvP guilds, some of them they'll look at an RP guild and be like, oh, that's easy pickings. We can just use them to like train up or whatever. Well, that would be fine and dandy, but not all our peers will shy away from PvP, and especially if you're there and let's say somebody who you're in an alliance with is there too, and you kind of just look at each other and be like, we got this. kind of put kind of put the douchebags in their place a little bit. Can't really say much about the economy stuff though. That's not my lane.
what about you, Cersei? Being a guild leader, I think this part of the conversation is actually right up your lane.
well, I'll say alliances are definitely going to be important. We are not a large guild. We are a small guild right now, I would say. Um, I have big hopes that we will grow, but even if we do not, my goal with any alliance is to ensure that we're able to work with others to, achieve bigger goals. And I think for me, that's the big impact that alliances will have. Um, but there will be alliances on the opposite end that may be looking to disrupt other guilds. There potentially could be alliances that look to target roleplay guilds or, smaller communities. And something I've kind of talked about for a couple years now, in the roleplay communities, I think we as a community need to pull together, especially the smaller communities, because we're not going to be able to on our own compete with a 500-man community. So if we build together and with that thought in mind, we'll be a lot more able to actually compete and accomplish things. And I know for Gilded House, we want to be able to help and defend other communities that might not have like a PvP or focus in that, and they might need some assistance. So for alliances, that's going to be important. Just being able to compete will require alliances because this game is built with a larger view set in mind, I believe, for guilds. They're looking at large node wars, large guild wars. Um, and you're going to have open world dungeons. So you're not just going to be entering a dungeon by yourself. There could be other groups in there, and that means PvP, which is great. But if you have like a lot more people come through than your 4-man guild, then or your 4-man group, then you've got to say, okay, we have to either basically have to abandon our post because we're just going to get wrecked. So there's a lot to consider with that stuff.
Yeah, I know for me, alliances are important, especially with what you mentioned with the RP community. I feel like there's more to it than just the game mechanics of it. Being focused on story and RP, I think there's a great opportunity too, just to forge alliances, to have shared RP moments with other communities. I mean, I think that would be phenomenal. And through those RP and story moments, you can actually form more of the connectivity with like the out of character stuff, joining in those alliance raids or going into dungeons together, or, helping each other fill out roles and coordination and things like that. So, I think, one thing that we don't really touch on with the alliance discussion is, just general cooperation and just kind of like playing with each other as gamers and just kind of like building a community between other people as well. It is a PvP game, so it's going to definitely be an aggressive game. There's going to be a lot of threats, just traveling from point A to B. There's always that looming threat that you're going to get that guy that's going to turn purple or red on you. It's just the nature of the beast. But it would be cool, like, if we also have those social connections where, like, hey, you run across someone in your alliance and you're like, hey, cool, let's just chat for a bit, or let's role play, or whatever, or just like partner up. Like, those are the things that I'm hoping we can get out of alliances. That may be a bit of a stretch, but I like to think big, and I think it's a little optimistic perspective, but I take optimism with strides. So
Yeah, I agree. I think Tony, not aggressive leader. Jesus. My God. So I think that is great too, because I didn't mention that, but the social aspect is important too. And I think, from a perspective, the social aspect should be the easiest way we can align. We're going to have competitive communities, even in the roleplay group community, that are not necessarily going to want to align on everything, content wise. They might be looking for a castle and someone else might be looking to take a castle. So they might be like, well, we don't know if we want to align with you because we've already got someone who wants to be the king and we can't have two of those. But on the social aspect, I feel there should be a lot more ability to, interact and engage. We have been successful at Gilded House with that because no caps lies. Caps will get you timed out automatically. But we've been successful with the cooperation aspect on our role play because we were able to work with guilds like House Rain, which is now part of Gilded House, and also work with House Cauldron, again, another one that's joined Gilded House. But those original connections were built through that connection, wanting to role play with us and engage. And we've been able to work with them on building out, a community map and all of these stories. And that's something I think we can do as a larger roleplay community as well, engage with others and kind of build those stories together. And I think that's a really exciting aspect. I know I've spoken with at least a couple people from other communities that are interested in like connecting potentially. So I'm hoping, at least from a roleplay standpoint, we can do that, so we can intertwine our characters and our stories. Good afternoon. Just the new chatter.
is it Rorier? Is it like I am Rorier? Kind of like Warrior?
No.
Oh God, I'm probably butchering that too.
But yeah, I
You
think
got it
that's
right.
cool. Did you want to make any comments on the alliances, Tony? Other than I am an aggressive leader? Jesus.
No, I rephrased that. You are a leader that is aggressively trying to marry us all off. We don't want inbreeding, so we need to have alliances.
Oh my gosh. Well, the good thing is that Thayer's already married herself off. So she saved
Listen,
her.
I had to take myself off that table. I have listened and seen what you are trying to do, and I was like, I got to get off this table quickly.
Yep, she took the matters into her own hands.
That also sounds like an after dark discussion, getting off the table. But
Oh
Jeez.
my god!
He went there.
Listen, I'm just saying, Raj, though, you're not allowed to go to bed right after this. We gotta have a talk.
um,
Oh, why?
Oh boy. Okay, so
Okay, well, here's a shout out for any pirate men out there. No.
oh my gosh, Jesus, we're entering the dating show segment of our stream.
I like long
Okay, here's a
walks and
mushroom.
beaches. Just saying.
Behind door number one, we have. Okay. Moving on. Here's a good question. Do you think the ability to traverse land and sea will give the game more strategic depth, especially in terms of player movement and trade routes?
Oh hell yeah! Oh, can I say that? I said it anyways. I'll say it again. Oh hell yeah! I think that is gonna be very very important. Especially like Nihili mentioned. I was talking about our rangers. They're gonna be able to go out there and be like, hey, just so you're aware, what during this convoy, there's this group that are up the way a little that seem kind of just waiting for you. So we'll be able to, if we want to, as much as it would pain me, to kind of like forego running into them and just kind of skirt around them and be like, haha, you thought wrong. Though I'm sure they'll probably have their scouts of their own being like, hey, they clearly saw you guys.
Yeah, I think that caravan showcase showed off like the environment being reactive to your caravans too. So that's it's gonna be interesting to see the land aspect of that. Even though I think everybody can agree in the Ashes community that we would love to see more naval and naval travel in period, just so that way we can kind of add more depth to that conversation. Because I'm very curious about that.
I liked how they brought out too, or they actually showed that you could have fake caravans. So not only having trade routes, but being um, learning more, like with the rangers of various different routes, we could always do a dummy run one way, another caravan, actual caravan, perhaps another way, while we have people distracted, hopefully. I the different, yeah, I'll stop right there. Never mind.
You're good, Tony.
My brain gets to rolling and it won't stop sometimes, and it should.
I feel that. I think I'm going to go a different route with this and kind of think. I think it will be important. Your traverse time, both across land and sea, will be important. Not just in Alpha 2, but in when we get in game, we have a bigger map to work with because people are going to have to make some pretty big decisions about where they want to be in the world, in relation to other people, in relation to guildmates, in relation to events and activity and nodes. Because, if you're on the other side of the world, it's not going to be super easy for you to get to that roleplay event, that's going to start in an hour. Like, that's going to take you a long time. So people are literally going to have to plan out their routes. I mean, they're going to have to do that for roleplay, but they'll also have to do that. They'll have to do that with, not just their roleplay, but with caravans, with PvP. Because, if Thayer's over there and she's getting people ready to go in a guild war, what have you, and you have Lies and Adelbert over there and Yeehaw all over, who knows what they're doing over there on the other side of the world, they're going to be late at best for whatever node war is going on or guild war is going on, and that's not going to be a good thing for the outcome of that. So, people are really going to have to be thoughtful with where they are in the world and positioning themselves. And I'm sure there's going to be some prioritizing people are going to have to make too about that. Because, you could be doing a long term role play with somebody and then still want to, like, we do in Discord, we do these role play events. And sorry, my dog just hit something. We do these role play events, and right now we can do them where we kind of timey-wimey things, and someone could be up, in one end of the map, and then tomorrow be at the role play event that's on the opposite end. They can do that. When we get in game and we have a whole world, they're not going to be able to just to timey-wimey themselves for an in-game event. Like, they will legitimately have to plan where they're going to be because otherwise, you're going to be spending several, potentially hours going from one end of the world to the other to meet where that event is taking place. So I think that's going to definitely be, something people have to consider.
I'd not thought of that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's something I thought about ever since they, told us more of an idea on the timing of crossing the world and how big it is. It's like, okay, so RP events, you're really gonna have to plan for these, or even not RP stuff, but like PvP, like if your friends are getting attacked over in the middle of the world, it's not like Arcade where we could, create a portal and head right over there. You gotta make different different choices. You don't have those portals to just throw up. And you also, there'll be ways for potential fast travel, but they'll be like few and far between and will depend on like the nodes. So if you have two scientific nodes that are metropolises, you could teleport between them. But, that only helps if you're near one of those. And that only helps if someone builds up metropolises like that. If they don't, then you don't get that perk.
I wonder what they're going to do then about mounts, whether we're going to have husbandry or if there's going to be actual mounts sold perhaps in some of these cities during the alphas so that we do have something a little bit faster than walking or running.
Well,
I'm pretty, yeah.
they said in the last stream that there are going to be quests to get mounts. I don't know if we're going to
I
have
missed
them.
that one, so I'm sorry.
I don't know if we're going to have them in Alpha 2 or not, but I mean, they said it, so.
I think throwing out a speculation there, but it would be cool that higher level like mage classes might have a teleport ability. That would be cool. Maybe it costs a resource or something to do that, but I hope they incorporate something at the higher tiers that allows people a little bit more flexibility to explore. Just throwing that out there. Kind of like other games have like warlocks, or even older games like Final Fantasy XI had black mages that could do a warp ability on their party members to get them out of a dungeon or something. Like, I'm hoping there's a little bit more of a magical element to that too. Maybe not at the earlier levels, but maybe at the higher tiered levels, like level 50 maybe. That would be cool. And maybe that resource is a very expensive resource.
I like that idea potentially if it's limited. Like you can only do that so many times or within like a day period. Or if it's limited in that you can do that, but they still have to be within like a minimum distance. So you can't actually teleport someone from the other edge of the world. But if they're like 2 biomes over, you could. Like, I think that would be cool too. Like they have to do at least some of the trek before that could happen. So.
Yeah, because I feel like, nodes are going to be so important, right? And you're going to have conflicts that are happening. Who knows if it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. However, you want the players still to be able to feel like they're free to explore the world. And yeah, I just feel like they might want to think of something late for a higher tier on how to resolve some of the bindings that I think players are going to have in traveling too far away from the node that they've chosen to be residents of. I think they're going to have to think of something.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something they're going to have to sort
of. Brecker. Brecker said you can only fast travel every third Tuesday between 2 and 5, and it's one way.
That would be interesting. I mean, I like anything basically in a game where you actually have to consider your options, and you can't just get there like. Yeah, I like when there aren't quick workarounds and people actually have to make some pretty critical thinking decisions, and you don't see that a lot in games anymore. So I think that would be a cool thing to actually. Okay, if I want to attend my grandmother's 150th birthday because she's never gonna die. I have to take this route, but then I also have tea with Nithrim I have to consider. So then I have to do like a I have to plan all of these things to get around the world.
Plus, I think as much time and everything that they're putting into creating the world, the being able to fast travel from point A to point B kind of takes away from enjoying the world that they're giving us so we can actually like explore, oh, maybe this will be a shortcut. That was definitely not a shortcut and you're like half an hour late. But you'll have like an amazing story to tell, especially in RP.
Or you
Yeah,
end up getting stuck in a hole because it's a glitch. You fell off the edge of the world.
that is absolutely going to happen in Alpha 2.
That's me. I find all the holes. Just ask Thera and Nahili.
Every hole in
Aniga.
Ark she has found.
Yeah, I think there's going to have to be a balance of that obviously, but yeah, I'll be interested to see how that all works out once we get further into Alpha 2 and see more of the world.
Yeah, even if it's like a ritual based thing that they have to do, maybe they have to, because Steven likes his pen and papers, right? So it'd be kind of cool if the mage actually has to draw like a thing, something on the ground, and it has a cast time to it, and people around you can see you're doing this cast time, and it costs this extra resource. Like you're making it a complex system just to teleport your group. I think that would add a really cool element to the game. And if you're going to travel far, yeah, bring a mage. That'd be so neat.
Yeah, you belong in my pocket, Nihili. Get there.
I'm not gonna be a mage. You're gonna look at Cersei here or one of the other people in the chat. You're gonna be carrying me in your pocket. I don't need to teleport.
That's fair.
And Haley's just going to be wherever Thera is. It's just gonna be attached to the hip. It's gonna be a role play. They're attached.
Well, if she's already married, are you calling me like her pet? Oh my.
If the branchlets fit.
Oh my god.
You want a nice shiny collar?
Moving on. Next question. How do you think Ashes of Creation's social mechanics like taverns and player housing will affect player interaction in the world?
Well, for me, I'm not a big tavern role player. I think Thera said that too on the Golden Feather stream, but I do think it's going to be an important social hub, and I do think a lot of role players are going to utilize that space. I mean, for me, if they do incorporate some sort of music system where you can create a music and, have a band of players together, then, a tavern might be a cool place to do it, especially if it's one of those places that is considered like a safe haven. So, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think taverns are going to be an important social hub for a lot of people, especially people who don't mind tavern role play. Obviously, I'm an explorer, so I like the world as my canvas. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely got quite the backlash for being like, yeah, I don't like tavern RP. I don't like standing around and RPing. I'd rather be out doing things in the world. Um, the housing stuff though, like I'm very interested to see how they're going to have that work. Um, Considering, I played Final Fantasy 14 how long? And only what, this year, the end of last year, I was only just now able to get a house. But I mean, like Nihili said, I think for a lot of people, the taverns are gonna be optimized as long as they they don't allow people to get away with things that BDO did when it came to people RPing in the tavern, where they'd park the war elephant in the middle of the tavern, and then, the people of BDO were just like, get over it. It's an elephant in the room now.
Like literally an elephant in the room.
Yes, like literally a giant elephant in the tavern. Like, really? Why?
I like that, like about Final Fantasy 14, and I believe SWG was that way to an extent too, is where if you don't get off your animal before you go in, you're forced off your animal, and they don't go in. Um, though I can see where if there was a role play of preventing it, it would be kind of fun. But if they're just going to leave it, like you said, in BDO, then, it's not fun walking into somebody's elephant's butt. Um, I'm hoping that they have more social mechanics also. Like we discussed about SWG, some of their role play mechanics would be wonderful, I think, in Ashes, where what we were talking about languages earlier. Well, if we could teach other people our languages like we did in SWG, and then it can go on, you can learn, and then you can understand their languages, um, and the same with some of their NPCs. They weren't really NPCs, they were more like our puppets. We could, it was an NPC that we could create stories with that acted like an NPC. Adding some of those perhaps later when we, um, or when we do nude role plays within those social things would be great. Not just for in taverns or in player housing. Um, but anyways, yeah, there goes my brain again.
I think for me, housing, just in general, housing has always been pretty big. Um, I enjoyed I enjoyed housing in ArcH a lot. Being able to, design different types of buildings for different uses, having a lot of freedom. Obviously, there's a lot of negative with that system as well, but it was fun for those people who were able to, get um, a lot of their housing projects like all together. We had people building player villages and building, taverns, inns, all these places. And it did make a big difference for role players in that game having those spaces. And it made them feel, I think, more connected to the world around them. So for Ashes, I believe it's going to play a similar role, or taverns and player housing are going to, ground people in their stories and their interactions. They're gonna feel like they are part of the world in a way. And I think that will go, even for the instance housing will play that role. But obviously, if someone is able to achieve a freehold or something, that's definitely going to feel a lot more real to some people than others. And you also have the taverns, which I think are going to be not everyone's a tavern role player. I'm definitely not a tavern role player either. I think the only game, weirdly enough, that I had to interact a lot more in the tavern was probably BDO. And that was very much like an awkward thing because, yes, there would be people that were trolling in that game that made it a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, we don't want to walk into the back of an elephant or other things in there. But yeah, I mean, taverns are just going to naturally play a place to connect. I think a lot newer role players, people that haven't role played before, will sometimes kind of linger in those spaces, and I think that is a good way, for them to kind of get a taste of role play, and hopefully guide people out of that once they get there, and just kind of take them out into the world, and into different places beyond taverns. But I think they're a good spot for beginning role plays, because you can usually find at least a couple role players in those spaces. So it's a good introduction. One of my first role play experiences wasn't in a tavern, but it was, interacting with a group that had set up camp in Guild Wars 2 and were just like telling stories around a fire there. And it was like, wow, what is this? And that's how I got introduced to role play. And I think taverns, you'll see that kind of stuff as well. So I think it's definitely going to build up the social mechanics of the game by having those things in the world. I know in Alpha 2 specifically, where we might not see exactly that because there's just going to be a lot of testing with those systems. But I think as we move forward deeper into development, we'll definitely see those and how they impact things.
Yeah, like what's your thoughts on the voice over IP that they mentioned that will be active in taverns?
I mean, I honestly don't care because if they're going to be using AI instead of actual, people voice acting, that means they're not having to pay those voice actors, and that money that they're saving from doing the AI stuff can go into the game, and it gives us more content. It gives us, more of whatever chaos is brewing in Steven's brain to enjoy. So I personally don't care about like the AI voice acting in taverns and like the side NPCs or what have you.
Well, what I was talking about is they're going to have active, like you yourself as a person, your voice is going to be able to be heard in taverns.
Oh shit. Well then I'm not talking at all.
Yeah, well, like what is your thoughts? You walk in, you start hearing actual players talking in the tavern. That was mentioned in one of the live streams, and I'm sure a lot of people have different thoughts and opinions on that, and I'm just curious, since we're talking about taverns, what's each of your guys' opinions on that?
I think as long as it doesn't get into the ERP roles and so forth, as long as it stays a little bit less uh, graphic, I can see the benefits of it. I think it would be fun to at least try. Whether or not it'll be worth it in the end, who knows?
I'm sorry, she just I mean, I agree with Tony. Look, what you do with your time is up to you. I'd rather not have to listen to that.
Oh, Nahili, what big branchlers you have.
Yeah.
Well, it might not just be like role players, it could be just regular players, talking shit at each other and stuff. And, that's going to be a different experience for people who aren't used to games that have localized voice over IP. So, it might be a unique situation where you're either getting to know people in a very unique situation, or you could be entering the tavern and suddenly like there's a verbal fight going on. So I think it's going to be interesting myself,
Oh,
going into those.
I mean, you know me. I'm that person that, if there's like the police outside and they're across the street at somebody's house, like there's that meme where the guy is standing on the roof vacuuming his roof just to watch what's going on. I'm that person. Um I'm just being honest.
I will say I've watched a lot of videos about Red for Dead roleplay, and I'm like, well, if it's something like that, I would probably have a laugh listening to it. But I'll be honest, I am not a voice role player, so you won't catch me role playing that way. Um, I have no problem with people who wish to roleplay that way, but I think for me, it's because there's a large potential for people just to troll with that if there's an option to turn off the voice entirely, I would turn it off. At least for like when I'm not like needing it for a combat scenario or something, I would probably have it disabled. If I needed to turn it on for like a in-game something like a combat PvP, like for coordination, I would turn it on then. But if I'm just running through the world and, I don't know, I really don't like uh voice RP, not voice RP. I don't like voice like stuff in games that for me don't really make sense to have it, or in spaces that don't make sense. And in a tavern, I just don't see the need for me. Um, yeah, it would kind of irk me a little bit if people were just talking, and not just talking, but like talking like smack in a out of character way to each other and just kind of being trolls in that space. And then it would kind of like almost take away a little bit of the immersion, to be honest. So it's like, it's not a big thing for me. I have no problem if people want to actually voice RP, and if I caught that and heard that, I would absolutely be like, Feyre, I'm like, let me listen in, see what's going on over there. But otherwise, like, I expect that's going to attract actually more trolls than it actually is role players.
Hopefully, like you brought up, we'll be able to turn it on and off at our own
Yeah.
discretion. Because maybe there's sometimes that we want to just somehow hear what's going on or just check in. And then there's other times where that day is really not a good day. Let's shut it off and do what we have to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool, like, if you walk into a tavern and people are just talking, like we do on Discord or what we're doing right now. Like, it would be kind of neat to have, like, those moments where you could just jump into a conversation with some random people like you would at a bar and just talk. RP aside, I think it would be really neat. You know, I don't know if you ever play with me and Thera. We are the goofballs that will randomly engage strangers all the time. Stranger danger is like, what is that? We do it. So I think that'll be cool. That'll be fun.
We are ridiculous.
So yeah, so Thera and Nahili are talking smack in the tavern, and I can't hear them because I disabled voice.
Next thing Cersei gets is this notification for, this guild is at war with Gilded House.
Yeah, because you were in the tavern, and I thought everyone was just having a good time, but you all really talking smack to each other.
Cornholio.
Like, I was just checking my bags, and you all started the guild war.
Oh, no, it's a
Well, as long as
PvP game.
I'm not pressing the button. There you go.
It is a PvP game.
Oh my gosh. Next question. This might be harder to actually answer, but I'll throw it out there. What are your biggest concerns going into Alpha 2? Are there any systems or mechanics you think might need more polish? And I think this will be hard because we haven't gotten to Alpha 2 yet, but if there's something you've seen or haven't seen in the streams, I guess this would be like, okay, is there something you've seen or you haven't seen yet and it might concern you about, like, is it ready yet?
That is a hard question. I mean, I think for me, I just think it's the server. I think I expect I expect there's going to be a lot of hiccups and a lot of things that are going to need polishing. So for me, I just expect the servers to be an issue on the first day. But that's the whole point of testing. So, I mean, obviously that's the one thing I definitely think will need to be polished and improved upon. So,
I mean, yeah, I agree. I can't. It is a really hard question to answer, especially like they gave us their layout for phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 testing, and that's always subject to change, right? But everything that they have shown us, there are even times where Steven himself will admit, oh, well, that is a bug. So kind of just ignore that. That's a bug. That's not going to happen. So they're very upfront about things. I think the only thing that is going to be an issue is exactly what Rezo said. That first day, everybody's going to be excited to get into Alpha 2. And, we're sitting here for 7-8 hours still trying to get in, just because the servers themselves, the stress that we're going to put on the servers is going to be a test of its own. So,
But that's the whole thing about
exactly.
the first part is the stress tests and so forth. I'm betting that it's going to be like that the whole weekend, not just the first day.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and we have another question, but I think it kind of goes with it, and I'll just kind of add it to it. Like, how well do you think the servers will handle the influx of players during Alpha 2? And I think it kind of plays that. I think my biggest concern has been I think I vocally said it in the Ashes of Creation Discord, in our guild Discord, and here is that they haven't done large scale testing enough to meet where the expectation is for the launch of Alpha 2 because, launch of Alpha 2, you're looking at potentially over 100,000 players. Right now, with what they've shared openly, you might have 14,000 Alpha 1 players. And that's based on the known or estimated number. So you don't even have like a quarter of as many people as they potentially could have for Alpha 2. And they've only reasonably said, something about 3 servers per, region. So, I mean, that seems like that's very quickly going to be capped out. So I think, yeah, there's definitely a concern for me with that influx on day one, but it's also going to be day two, day three. So that whole weekend, that first opening weekend, I mean, to be completely honest, I would be in the mindset it's probably going to be not very many people getting into game that weekend, and I think that's okay. We should go into that expectation that okay, we'll try and hope we get to character creation and get into game, but if we don't, we know this is Alpha 2. We know there's going to be another weekend. We know it's going to be going on for, the next over a year, maybe potentially 2. So it's not going to be like, oh, sucks. Like we understand what we're getting ourselves into. So I think that's the best thing is like kind of prepare ourselves, our expectations. And I think that's kind of where my head is right now.
Yeah, and Nithram has a really good question, and I think this is a solid one. Is that he says, I guess that is a good question on the most serious side, though. Having been a guild/community lead for RP orgs in the past, I've encountered many guild members who felt sort of out of the loop and excluded from the inner circle, and that tends to form around officerships. Is there any sort of plan or strategy to get ahead of that? And he says, I know, me, have mentioned fairly recently about dragging more outliers into the fray of Discord RP. So I don't know if you want to take point on that, Cersei, or I can, or Thera, but I'll throw that out there.
Yeah, I'll speak up on that. I mean, I think we have done a decent job with that because the way we bring new people into our community, we do kind of like we try to do like an interview phase type stuff. I know Tony's done that. I know Nahili's done that. And then some people kind of just jump right into the role play. We recently had a new member who literally just jumped into role play and they were kind of, I think their character was naked. So that was an experience or is an experience. It's ongoing. So there is a lot of potential for those interactions when we have them. I know like it comes down a lot to characters too. As an example, Nahili is a character I'd say that gets out a lot in and around people. And that has been very beneficial because I feel like he's able to have a lot of different connections in some way. And Thera in a way as well. Like I feel like those characters are almost like a lot more down to earth. Even though they are leaders in the community, in character and out of character, I feel like you're able to connect with them in a certain way that's easier. Whereas, like, my character, especially now, is harder to reach. Which, it's kind of not, it's not like weird that she's out of reach. I mean, she is the head of her family and stuff, and she's, especially with goings on, like, she's basically under protection right now. Not any just person's going to be able to approach her, and that's kind of a negative in some ways. And that's why like I have other characters that I'm hoping I can continue to kind of interact with other people with because not everyone's going to necessarily be meeting with Cersei, but they might be meeting with Talia, my elf, or Sergio, who's a lot more of a down to earth type character. So it helps build those connections outside of that core officer group. But yeah, I think there's not necessarily a plan in place, but the strategy is, we think a lot about getting these interactions and getting people involved when they join the community. And we kind of work with them on their role play concept to kind of see, okay, how we can fit you in. Like, how can we get someone fitted into Guild Adventures? How can someone be fit into one of the houses? So we can have that introduction type role play. For example, we have, Bailey, who I'm not sure if they're still in the channel. They are getting started their role play with Tonili, with Phoenix Antiquities and House Kimura, and then eventually they'll actually be meeting with like Cersei or Sergio, and building out from there. But they've got like a journey that's going to take them down that path. And different characters have different experiences. Yeah. I guess that's what my initial thought on that is, but I'll let Nahili and Thera say their piece as well.
I'll go ahead and let you talk, Nihila, because I gotta bring my daughter's hair real quick.
That's important. Yeah, for me, I've been leading guilds for quite some time now, and my core concern has always been about that very thing, Dimmer, is you get these communities where you have these inner circle cliques, and a new member joins and they suddenly feel like it is impossible for them to get involved, and it makes them feel like they're just this little flickering candle in the darkness while everyone else is gathered around. I think the important thing for us as a community, and one thing I've learned a lot over the years, is that my characters, I've always built them as like a support character. So even though my character is what you would consider a leader, he's always going to be there to create narratives for other people. And while I may be the first point of interaction you have, that interaction is going to spread onto other interactions. And my character is there to make sure that you're highlighted in that moment by be given these tasks. Those tasks might have you engage with another officer. I think we actually had like 4 or 5 people in Guild Adventures literally just recently been sent off to Outpost Hedron to train with Thera. So you guys are automatically now getting that new interaction with another officer of the community, and you're building those meaningful connections, and that's always going to be on the forefront of my mind. If I feel like a narrative is going on too long for like Guild Adventures or Obsidian Order or for the houses, we'll change that approach and we'll go, okay, we've done too much Guild Adventures story arcs, so let's bring this back, dial it back, and we'll focus on house stuff. Or if we feel like we're doing too much house stuff, then we'll dial that back and do Obsidian Order or Phoenix Antiquities. We'll change it up. And I think it's really important that the stories aren't told around an individual, but rather the overall guild story has an impact on everybody involved. So like our narratives will never have like a conclusion on what we're trying to strive for, because those conclusions tend to need specific people there. We'd rather have the members of our community tell the story with us and evolve the story over time, just like Ashes is designed to do. You do a quest out in the world, you might be changing the narrative in the overall world based on the actions of the people that are engaging in certain quest lines or dialogues, and that's exactly how Gilded House is going to be built with our narratives. You'll never see a specific storyline built around Nihili, for example. I will never have Nihili be the center of the stage. That's not how I built my character. He is a support character. He is there to help build narratives with other people. But ultimately, it's you guys as Gilded House members who are present in this chat that we're going to be focusing on the most. And that's really important to me as the story officer, is to make sure that no one feels like a prop in the end of the day, and they feel like it's easy to engage officers, mentors, and other members at all times. And if anyone in our community feels like they're having a struggle to do that, like in Discord, we're always saying, hey, why don't you DM me, reach out to me, we'll figure out a way to get you involved, and we'll get you involved. So we have been actively, as a community, doing that already. when a new member joins, we have these interview moments. We have these one touch RP opportunities, not with another member typically. You have the option to actually interview and engage your character's first interactions with the community with an officer. And that's important because now you're already breaking down the walls of this click mentality because you're making a meaningful connection, your first meaningful connection with someone that's leading the community.
Yeah, very much what Rizlo said. Like, yesterday I hosted the humanitarian event, the Southern Borders, and I always enjoy giving, our members the opportunity to shine in skill sets that, they've built their character around. So I put Thera on the sidelines. Like, she was at certain places here and there, like maybe once or twice, and then she was on the sideline. And I just focused really on you guys, like, here's this situation. How are you going to handle it? And I mean, there wasn't even, okay, granted, I picked on like a few people, but they deserved it. They knew what they signed up for. But it I want you guys to be able to shine. I want you guys to be able to have your moments. Exactly. See, you get it. They had it coming. Um, and be able to let other people read that thread and be like, "Oh, I didn't know this about, Alara, or I didn't know this about Khalil and everybody else who joined." It gives other people like an out of character insight a bit on in character stuff, though hoping they don't use it. No, no bleeding, people. No bleeding. We don't do that here. Um, and just like Nihili said, those meetings, your first time meeting with an officer, be it after we look at your applications, we, depending on what branch you go for, like if you go for Guild Adventures, Nihili reaches out to you. I reach out to Obsidian Order. Tony reaches out to Phoenix Antiquities. And we just have like that little talk between us, like, hey, is there any questions? Do you have concerns? You can always reach out to me if you need me. And sometimes there are times that we got to be like, hey, there's something about, your character story, because we're in Sanctus, there's no magic right now. So let's see what we can do to kind of like MacGyver that, um, so that way you do get the opportunity to RP this character that you were really looking forward to, and not have to rewrite everything and then feel like the character that you wanted to RP essentially isn't that character anymore.
Yeah, one thing I'll say is, yeah, I agree with what Thera and Haley both said. I also will say, for example, I think this year, looking back, we've had a lot of roleplay events. We started this year with a gala hosted by House Kamura. Um, we had we had like a investigation into some ruins. We had a wedding. We had a reception. We've had a lot of events, and I would say more than half of them have definitely been geared toward like House Camera or the houses in general. Um, and we're kind of in a place now where that's kind of taken, like, we're taking a step back and we're like, okay, we've had a lot of stuff geared toward the houses. So now let's look at, like, how we can get other people involved. And ensure that we are, like Nahili said, like we're taking a good look at where our story is, and everything that's happened to this up to this point has we've had a lot of great interactions and story, but we're kind of looking at this from the point of view of let's make it so other people have the opportunity to shine who maybe are newer to the community or maybe aren't all into like the whole politics of nobility and the family and stuff. Nahili and Thera are going to be able to easily intertwine their characters with any of that. But they also have, people in the Obsidian Order and people in Guild Adventures who necessarily might not have that interaction, Dimmer in chat talking about, hey, we haven't interacted with Cersei, and that's a good point because our characters up to this point haven't really had um, a good opportunity to, and I'm hopeful that will change in the future. But there's definitely room for us, and as we move forward, to ensure that we are giving a little bit more balance to those types of stories, because we are Gilded House, but we're not just about houses. We've got City and Order, we've got Phoenix Antiquities, we've got Guild Adventures. It's not just the nobility that definitely play a big active part of our community, but we have plenty of people, from simple people like Alara, who's more of like a wanderer, to people like Maxwell, who is like a psychiatrist. And these are characters that also deserve their chance to shine and participate, where they might not necessarily feel like they're going to be able to attend like a gala or a wedding reception for nobility. They might feel like, I don't really have a place here. So definitely looking at that, and making sure we're giving some balance to those people and their stories and interactions as well. That's something I want us to continue to push going forward, and also as we kind of venture into Alpha 2.
Yeah, I think you actually brought up a good point there too, with people having like unique perspectives of their characters, like the psychiatrists, the healers, and stuff. Events don't need to run the narrative at all, all the time either. If Nihili gets hurt, or Thera or Tony gets hurt, or Cersei gets hurt, we should let our healers have the moment to shine. You're going to be the ones we go to have our characters have that moment with you, so you can help heal us or mend the wounds or tell us the dire news that we're going to be dying in 2 hours, whatever. It's those little moments too, that maybe not even event driven, that we as officers and mentors will get involved with you guys in on too. So
I think that's what you hopefully the people in the construction are finding that right now. It's like I'd like to sit back. I like to promote people. So if people feel like I'm not giving you enough, it's usually because I want to see you guys shine. I want to see your creativity. Come to the front and share it with people, because that's always good. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a new role player, an experienced role player, an officer, a leader, or somebody that just joined us. We're all there to work together. That's why we're a guild. We all have different things to bring to the table. So allowing these people, like everybody has said, allowing these people to shine, that's what we want to see.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Um, I think we are reaching the end of our stream, but I do have one more question that I want us to all kind of give our answers for. Um, what is your favorite MMORPG experience in the past, and what experiences are you hoping to accomplish or capture in Ashes and Alpha 2?
well, would you one of you like to start first?
I think you should go first.
Let's see. My favorite MMORPG experience would certainly be my time in Star Wars Galaxies. And that's only because out of all the games I have played, there has never been a game that's had so much RP tool sets at my disposal than that game. Not only that, but you also had a living world around you, and so on and so forth. But that's too broad for this question, right? So the one answer I would say is my time in Oracles, which is a Final Fantasy guild that we had, me and Thera and Tony, and I was the guild leader under the name Argyle, and I certainly was a little deceptive on why people were joining the guild. They thought they were joining a little.
A lot.
They were joining a charity group, they thought, and they thought they were doing good. Well, over time, they they certainly were doing missions and story events and things like that. And oh, they thought they were doing so much wonderful things in the lands of Eorzea. And come and to behold, the Argyle disappears one day. And he leaves a letter and says something along the lines like, you all better be watching your backs because everything we've been doing up to this point has not been so good. Of course, that's me paraphrasing, and there's a lot of stuff going on between, but ultimately, I created a cult that turned into a guild, and no one had a clue that it was a cult that they were joining. And we had like 50, 60 plus active members in this cult. It was great. And I will never forget that moment when they realized like they were the bad guys. It was the best.
Yep, it was at that moment that that meme of, are we the bad guys? I think we're the bad guys came alive.
It was very heartbreaking at first when that happened.
But I think what I'm looking forward to in Ashes is the opportunity to get to know more people. And oddly enough, this does play into what Nithram said earlier with his question. But for me, I just like having those oh shit moments, both in character and out of character. When you meet new players and you suddenly realize that they have murderous intent, that's an oh shit moment. But when you're in a game, those oh shit moments are the ones that you always talk about 10 years, 20 years later. Like, in Final Fantasy 11, I had an oh shit moment that I suddenly pulled an entire zone in a zone called Gargoyle Citadel or something like that. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm running to the entrance or exit of the thing, and I didn't realize that, when I broke the tether, those mobs were going to go back and kill most of the leveling parties there. Yeah. I will never forget those moments, and I'm hoping Ashes gives us plenty of those, oh god moments, or run for your life, oh my god, we got like 300 people chasing this 20-man group, oh my god. Like, I can't wait for that stuff.
What about you, Cersei?
I think for me, I definitely have talked about it before, but I really had a great experience, at least from a role play perspective, in ArcAge. I've had some really great MMO experiences. I've enjoyed ESO, I've enjoyed BDO, I've enjoyed Guild Wars 2, I've enjoyed even games like WildStar. Enjoyed almost every game I've really jumped into for a significant period of time. Um, but I'll say like ArcAge stood out for me for the role play. I met a lot of great role players in that game. Some, like Dimmer Meerkat has, they were somebody I met in ArcAge. And there's people in this community now that, I still like I've met them in that game and they've stuck with us through all of everything. Um, and I want that. Like I want Ashes to be a game where you have really great connections with people and friendships that really last the beyond the game itself. And you're able to tell, stories that have really great progression for different characters and guilds, and just in general. Because, I went from ArcAge, I had a character, Cersei, who had a really great story arc through my time there. But I also met a lot of other characters and players that, from day one, and I saw how they evolved and how the guilds evolved, the communities evolved, and it was just it was actually a positive experience and a game that definitely had a lot of downsides and definitely had a lot of issues. The role play community, even though it was small, really had a great foundation to it. Um, you know, I know there's always drama in roleplay communities, but I feel like comparatively, ArcAge wasn't terrible. Um, you know, because it was more of a close knit group, but it was something where, I would like to see us in Ashes be able to build a strong roleplay community, be able to feel like you go to, nodes and places in the world and they feel alive and you feel, part of that. And that's kind of what I'm hoping we can see in Ashes. I know in Alpha 2 it's going to be like kind of, we're just trying to get through this with all the issues we'll probably encounter and systems being implemented. But my end goal is that, we're going to be a community, Gilded House, and also the larger roleplay community where you're able to really immerse yourselves in the world and we're able to build great stories and friendships together. And that's ultimately, all I could ask for this game.
And you, Tonili?
Well, I'm going to go with Star Wars Galaxies for many, many, many reasons. One is because that was actually my first ever MMO game. Pretty much my first computer game. So that holds a fond memory, but the housing, the crafting, everything within it was so immersive. When you're role playing, it was very diverse. There were so many things that just kept you going, even though it seemed like it was a sandbox. It There were just constantly new things, new ways to do it. They were talking, their animal husbandry was one of those things that was very, very intricate. And I'm hoping that we'll get part of that, not maybe not quite as intricate with Ashes, but it made it fun. It made it interesting. That is also happens to be where I met Nahili years and years and years ago.
Poor you.
We've been, huh?
Poor
No,
you.
poor us. We put up with each other for, I don't know, what was it, 15 to 17 years
I
now
thought you were
that
going to say
we've known
50.
each other. No, 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 no. But it's been a long time. Then my second is Final Fantasy 14. I don't have as many experiences with the other Final Fantasies, but I stick to MMOs. Why? Because I want to play with friends. So that's where we met Thera, and that's been at least 5 years.
Poor her.
For
Poor
you
her.
guys.
So it's just been the building and the enjoying of being around each other for that long, and now we've got new people that we're going to be learning about. We're going to be working with. Hopefully, we're going to be really good friends with. That's the whole big thing. And there was something about Star Wars I was going to say, and I cannot remember what it was. I'm sorry. As you can tell, I get very, very excited, very worked up about these things.
Trust me, if you drove with her in Star Wars, you were probably going to get lost and you'd be like, I have no idea where we are right now.
That's what it was. It wasn't the driving, it was the oh shit moments. You can ask Nahili. One of the first things that happened outside of role play when we met was he would hear what was it, uh-oh, or something like that, or oops, and he knew that I'd be bringing the whole dungeon towards him.
Oh, yeah, she was troublemaker. She would always be like, oops. I'm like, oh, God, I have to look around and see what's chasing her now. Um, or that time that we yeah, there's a lot. We were role playing and a bounty hunter pulled me out of the house. So, yeah, there was a lot of uh-oh moments in Star Wars Galaxies.
Hmm.
You two always causing trouble. Dear Lord.
Wait a minute. I have a feeling Cersei and you are going to be the ones causing us trouble. I just got a feeling.
Why me? I am innocent.
The voice of
I'm still
innocence.
planning on doing the uh-oh moments where I run into PvP to distract everybody so you guys can kill them all.
Run in a circle, Tony.
I usually run into the walls, you know that.
I know.
Or, uh-oh, I've got the whole crowd behind me. Watch out, guys, as I run right through our group.
We'll attach white flags to your branchlers, don't worry.
Oh God,
There we
they'll
go.
just like capture the flag.
Capture the Tony.
I mean, mine's rather easy. I mean, I enjoyed my time in BDO, like the Node Wars and the RP experience that I had there, because that's really BDO is really where I essentially kind of first dipped my toe into RP outside of sitting in the back of a Humvee with a buddy of mine, and he's like, "Here, just write what you would respond on this piece of paper because we're bored as shit." But Final Fantasy 14 would also have to be full of my best experiences. I got to meet Nahili and Tony there. I got the opportunity I played a Zayla who, I mean, just as bad as Argyle was, she was just as bad. And I mean, she was the only one that ever seemed to like kind of catch on to some of Argyle's things, but because they were so similar, she wouldn't say anything. But I got to watch and witness, these two characters that are essentially the same diverge and go on to different paths throughout in their life. And once Argyle left, and Ryslo, the little Lalafell priest, showed up. And I mean, to this day, I will never forget, they had one duel. The whole time that Ryslo was the leader of Oracles. And my character didn't want to hit him. She didn't want to hurt him, so she kept just knocking him on his butt, and then he'd spray her in the face with water. But yeah, I enjoyed just watching the character grow. I know it might sound a little self-centered, but it it was it started with two characters who were the same, and they both went into a different direction. So it was it was fun to see. It was fun to witness. Of shit moments would have to be an extreme that Ryslo and I did, and and it's a series of extremes that we still have to go back to get the mounds. But we were in this practice group, and like we were trying over and over and over again, and somehow we got through that extreme, just kicking and screaming and yelling and cursing, and the mount dropped. And I got it, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And Russell was like, "Insert bad words here."
Well, that's like the time we were doing something with my mom in Final Fantasy. I don't think you were with us then, Thera. And my mom was trying to get this specific mount, and guess who got it?
Ryslo.
And of course, he had to tease her about it. And you have to realize at that time she was 80 when she was playing Final Fantasy 14. But it was a fun thing, so just had to bring that up.
Oh yeah, I still pull the mount out every now and then. I'm like, "Hey, Rasta, look what I got," and he was just like, "I don't like you." I was like, "I love you."
I think you get the theme here of what we're all talking about. I think us just building memories with people, new people, and having these stories like a year later going, "Oh my god, I can't believe so-and-so did that. Do you remember that time when they pulled all those goblins to the camp and all the NPCs started just dying left and right?" And it's like, oh my god, it was total chaos. I can't wait for those moments.
Same, yeah.
Or if they were getting stuck in the hole and getting smacked on the butt by somebody's broadsword, the side of it.
I mean, we are entering After Dark soon.
we are in. Yes, Ryslo is the bully.
Yes.
Who's this Ryslo? I'm Nahili.
Oh, excuse me. Nahili.
The person behind Nahili and Ryslo is a bully. And we are teasing lovingly.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Sweet cinnamon bun.
We have really great community of people. So definitely looking forward to more interactions with everyone in Alpha 2. And in our community in general, we do a lot of fun gaming and role play. I'm excited again when we get back into our BG3 playthrough, because I think we'll see more fun things as we're playing our characters in for Ashes of Creation in a BG3 setting. So I'm sure that will be a fun little thing as we continue that in our next stream. But before we close out, was there anything y'all wanted to talk about, or any other questions anybody wanted to ask?
Well, we knew what we asked. What your favorite beer was or a drink the last time we had the stream. So we need something goofy to end this stream.
What is your favorite? It should have to do with something Halloweeny. I mean, it is the spooky season.
Okay, then what would you dress up for Halloween and why?
Oh shit. Okay.
New question.
No, come on.
Hmm.
What is your this is probably a better one. What's been your favorite Halloween costume from years past?
Like as a kid?
Sure.
Let's see. I dressed up as the Headless Horseman one year, and my mom made the costume, and I'll never forget it. It was awesome. She put like a little tin can on top of my head, and she put like fake blood on the top. She put a cloak around it, so I could peek out through the cloak. And I had this lighted pumpkin that I would carry around, and it would just laugh every time I like walked, and I had to walk around town as like this 4-foot child looking like I was 5 feet something, and because the structure on my head that was being balanced was so massive I couldn't get through some like doors. Oh my god, and I tripped once, fell into a mud. Oh, it was great. That was my favorite costume for sure.
What about you, Tony?
I was just trying to think about it. There was many years where we didn't celebrate, but I remember this one time when I was 4 and I was living in Maine. So you have to realize, and back then, before a lot of the global warming or whatever you want to call it, um, October 31st was very, very, very cold up there. So my mom had to put me in a snowsuit and snow boots. So she decided she was going to make me into a clown. She literally blew up dozens of balloons and pinned them all over my suit. Well, she didn't pay attention. So some of them were like between the legs, so that when I tried to walk, I was like the Michelin Man, and I fell down a couple times, and all you hear is pop, 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 pop. But that I think that was my favorite because it was different. It was before you, well, not before they were bought costumes, but it was when they weren't as popular. It was more popular, at least where we lived, to have your parents make them. And I think that was the most fun of it, is the love that got put into them too. Yes, I'm old, everybody.
I think for me, that's a tough one because I feel like as I got older, I did it less and less, like dressing up. I think one of the most difficult Halloween costumes, like I don't remember how old I was. I was the Wicked Witch. And there was like lots of green paint. Well, not paint, but whatever makeup, and it was like exciting. The idea of it was exciting as a kid, like, yay, I get this, and oh, I'm dressed up. But I just remember like my face and everything, like it was like a week or so before all the green paint was gone. That's like the thing I remember the most. It was like, oh, it was fun, like idea dressing up as this, like as a young kid or what have you. But then it was like the after effect of, oh my god, it's been a week and I've got paint. And I know my mom, as an example, was like stressing out about all of that. She's like, can't get this off of them.
Oh, did you go to school with the green paint on?
Yes. Yeah, as a kid, that's the thing you do. The thing you
Hmm.
do.
You went to school, didn't matter whether your hair was 50 shades of green or blue and purple back in the days when that wasn't popular, except at Halloween.
Well,
Yeah, and that was probably again like one of the few times I like went I got like all out. Most of the times it was like very generic, and that was like one time it was like, no, I want to go all out. So,
That's so cute.
yeah. What about you, Theodora?
Um, oh God, I don't know. Like there were so many costumes. My poor mother, man. She, I think the biggest one, and for people who know me, this isn't gonna be much of a surprise. Even as a kid, like I was die hard into Marvel comics. And I'm sure everybody can guess that there was one that like I was adamant I was going to be Iron Man. I didn't care. Yeah, I did not care. And uh my cousin was making fun of me and was like, "Why do you want to be a guy?" It's like it's not about being a guy. It's Iron Man. They're cool. He shoots out laser beams. And I don't even remember how this even happened, but I mean, we're kids, so you know, as kids, you do stupid things. And I was trying to scare the crap out of my mother. I mean, I succeeded. I sure did. Because I wanted to jump down in front of her because I was so happy with the Iron Man costume that she'd got me. And she had there were things that she ended up having to adjust because like I'm not some big tall dude. And I ended up jumping out of a tree to scare her and I broke my arm. I scared her, I did, but even to this day she's like, "You didn't even cry. You were too busy laughing because you just like you fell out of the tree. You just straight up fell out of the tree." But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of costumes, but the Iron Man one was by far my favorite costume.
I just picture Kid Thera trying to jump off the bed going, I can fly too.
That's not that much of a stretch. I picture her doing that as an adult.
You're not wrong.
Well, I think that's a good way to conclude our stream. It was really awesome talking with everyone about various different topics related to Ashes of Creations Alpha 2. And I'm looking forward to more of these discussions and when we do further streams and when we actually get to stream Alpha 2. I'm really excited about that. So thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be doing another stream next week. I think we'll at least be doing one, and I think it will be focused on BG3. So definitely stay tuned for that. But other than that, thank you all, and I hope everyone has a good night and a great week ahead.
You have a good night. Thank you.
Have a great night, guys.
Thank you for letting me join you guys. Good night, everybody.